Morning fret friends, new project on the bench, and let me just show you what this is. Yes, it is an SG guitar. It's not an SG, it's an SG type. It is actually, it's a double cut, or in particular a DC custom line, DC standing for double cut. For all intents and purposes, for us it is an SG, but it's not Gibson, so we're not allowed to call it that. This is actually made by Harley Benton. Like I say, custom line, very nice looking guitar. Glued in neck, nice finish. There is a little ding on the back of the neck there, I've just noticed. It does have Grover tuners in gold. Roswell pickups. Before I get on to the pickups, I'll mention a couple of other things. We just have one master volume, one master tone, three-way switch, stop tailpiece, bridge in gold coloured pickups. So, what are these guitars like? Well, they seem okay. I've had a few in. They can be, these guitars sometimes can be a bit of a false economy because they need more work than ought to be warranted. In some cases you may need to change out the pickups or whatever. That has been my experience with Roswell pickups, but in this case absolutely not. How do I know that? Well, I've had this plugged in and this guitar sounds amazing. It sounds really good. The pickups really surprised me because I was expecting them to be thin and weedy and not very good at all, as been the case in the past. But for whatever reason, with my setup, these pickups sound absolutely fantastic. This is a rock machine and the pickups do not let the guitar down at all. So why is it in? Well, it's a new guitar. The owner wants it to have a setup. He's seen the videos. He decided he wants to bring some guitars to me for a setup. He wants my opinion, wants to know if he should change the pickups or anything. One thing it is going to need, it's going to need fretwork. That is no surprise. That is another reason that these guitars can sometimes be a false economy. But then again, consider a guitar like this is going to cost you, I believe, in the region of 150, 160 pounds. Maybe a little bit more, I don't know. It is certainly going to want the nut changing, which in itself is a bit of a job because the nut is sunk in, so it's a precision fitted nut. So that is not going to be cheap. I'll be looking at about, you'll be looking at about £50 for me to fit a nut on there, even a pre-slotted one, because we still have to carve it and shape it. It's a fair old bit of work. Getting the old nut out can also be a problem. Getting it out cleanly certainly is a problem, but there are ways and means to do that. One thing for me that lets this guitar down is the paint alongside the binding, which just comes under the binding here, and it tends to overlap just a little bit, and it does look to me a bit unprofessional. That does let it down a little bit, but that said, what a stunning looking guitar. Weight wise, I imagine it's a little bit lighter than a Gibson. A Gibson also, you'll have 2 volumes and 2 tones. Again, not a bad thing, 1 master volume, 1 master tone. Very nice guitar, but the frets for me really let this guitar down. The frets and the nut let this guitar down. I myself would go for bigger fret wire and taller fret wire than that. What lets this one down is there is a fret here. I can virtually just about get my thumbnail under it. I've already checked with frets, even though the neck's not straight. There are about 5 frets need definite attention. That one needs hammering in again, maybe even gluing in. I'm thinking when I've got the strings off of this and I get the neck straight, we're probably going to have more frets to level than the 5. And if that is the case, we're going to give this a full fret level. Now that in itself is not a surprise to the owner because he actually bought it in saying, I think it's going to need a fret level. In fact, this is one of 2 guitars he's bought in, both Harley Bentons. And he says if we both need a fret level, give them both a fret level. Change the nuts on both. So you're looking in the region of £155 for the work on these. Setup with a complete fret level and a setup on any guitar is £115 in this workshop. For the nut, I'm going to be charging you £35 for fitting it, and the nut's going to cost you 10-12 quid. So let's say 35, let's say 50 quid for the nut. You're going to be looking at a region of £165 per guitar. Not cheap, but there is work in these guitars. They do need time putting in, and they are my rates. And everyone knows my rates beforehand. So let's see, I'm not going to say we need a complete fret level yet. I'm just expecting it to more than likely need one. So what I'm going to do is, in the meantime, I've already played the guitar. I've had it plugged in, sounds really good, plays really good, bar the frets that need attention. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check the setup, check the intonation, check I like the action and the relief in my neck. Once that's all done, I'm going to remove the strings, we're going to bin them. We'll remove the strings, set the neck dead straight. We're going to go across with a fret rocker and we are going to check the frets. See how much work we do need on the frets. I'm also going to remove the nut very carefully. I will show you how I do that. Though that in itself may be a bit of a tall order because I need to get it in the vise over there. The workshop is, I'm quite busy. No, I'm not super busy. It's just my main bench. The reason I'm on this bench, which is my nighttime bench because of the LED spotlight up there, is my main bench has another guitar on it. It has a 1973 Gibson on there, having my neck straightened, and that is going. That does need the full neck jig, so everything's all clamped on there. So I can't use that bench till that guitar's done. So I'm over here. I would possibly like to get this in the vise to remove the nut, and that again in itself it means moving stuff around, moving the camera, and it's a little bit of an upheaval to be honest. So I think I might just explain how I'm going to remove the nut and just remove it anyway. But I'll show you as much as I can. But I'm going to do what I said. I'm going to check the setup, get the strings off, get the nut removed, check the frets. So I will bring you back in as I'm ready to check the frets, and we'll take it from there. The intonation on this was really quite good. I've only had to alter 2 strings. The pickup heights need a little bit of alteration. The neck pickup is a little bit lower than it ought to be. What I've decided to do regarding the nut is I have some bone nut blanks. So rather than go and buy some Graphtec nuts, which are about 12 quid, I'm actually going to cut bone nuts for each of the guitars Darren has bought in. Both have white nuts, so I'm going to cut them from bone. Like I say, I've got some blanks so I can precision cut them. For a complete new nut cut from bone, from scratch, I'm going to charge you £60. So we are going to be going £175 each on these guitars. That is if we need the full fret level. Let's not talk prices just yet. I'm still thinking this one's definitely going to need a full fret level. If not, we will be £40 less. It'll be £75 for an intensive setup plus a new nut on there. You're looking at £135 per guitar. Plus strings. So we'll see where we are when I've got I'm going to get these strings off. We're going to check the frets and see where we are from there. Can I just mention one thing, by the way? If people are mentioning that I'm talk too much about money on these videos, you understand these videos are for the client. They are not for YouTube. They're not instructional videos. They're not how-to videos. Every video I make is for the owner of the guitar or for the client. Just wanted to make that clear. I am not money driven. I just like my clients to know exactly what they're paying for and why they're paying for it. It's why I do these little appraisal videos. I let them know exactly what they need doing, what it's going to cost, and what the alternatives, if there are any alternatives. Just wanted to clear that up. So I've appraised the guitar further. The only thing I don't like on these guitars is the nut. And I've removed the nut, and look at it. Piece of cheap, hollow, I would imagine it's either graphite. Here's graphite. It's definitely some kind of composite. So it's some kind of resin. I would guess that this is graphite. I would like to see a bone nut on these. To be honest, it's just going to be better all round. I'm going to show the removed nut area. Got it off nice and clean. All I really did was cut through the edge of each nut, each side, sorry, with a standing knife just to break through the lacquer in case there's any lacquer holding it in. Gave it a very gentle tap this side with a small fretting hammer and a straight edge just to knock it loose. Came out really cleanly. We are going to replace with, I gave the owner an option. We could either go with a bone blank, which I will cut from scratch, or we could have gone with a Graphtec pre-slotted nut, which I would have shaped and fitted. For an extra 20 quid, he's decided to go with a bone blank. So I'm going to cut a bone blank, which will be fantastic. I've had these bone blanks I buy them in bulk. I've got 1, 2, 3, I've got 6. And there you go. Lovely bone blank. I will cut one from there. Much bigger than it needs to be. Hopefully you can see that. So I'll be able to cut and shape that. It's more or less the right width. Just needs to be sanded just a little bit to fit properly. I will charge 60 quid for cutting a nut from a bone blank. If you wanted a Graphtec one fitting, including the price of a nut, which is about 12 quid, I would do one for £40. They are your choices. The owner has decided to go for a bone blank, so I'm going to cut that. We'll use these spacings as a template as well. And so I look forward to doing that. We'll also go for a complete fret level. We have one really high fret. I'm going to move the camera shortly. I'm going to put it in a position where you can see all of the fingerboard with the camera pretty close, and we're going to go across with a fret rocker. I'll show that the neck is absolutely straight. There are at least 11 high frets out of the 22 or however many there are, the 21, 15, 17, 19, 21, 22. It's a 24 fret affair. Almost half of them have high spots. So we're going to level the whole lot while we're removing it. We're going to remove the knot anyway. So quite a lot of work in this. But it will be fun for me all the same. So let me get my lights set up, let me get my camera set up, and we'll come across. We'll go across with fret rocker with you close by, and we can check the frets. You can see that nothing untoward is happening. Like I say, these videos are for the client. It's just to show the client what he's getting, that he's getting his money's worth, and while we're doing the jobs and the modifications and the upgrades we need to do. Guys, different angle, but a very good angle to show that we have the neck dead straight and level. We have a not straight edge. This is my one from GMI, made in Greece, precision straight edge. A not straight edge, notched, as you can see the notches, it is straight, and this will show us if we have a neck straight or if there's any relief or back bow in it. And we have it dead straight. I've adjusted the truss rod to get it dead straight, and this is how we get the neck straight and level so we can check the frets. So there we go, we know the neck's straight. I'm going to get to my fret rocker, again made by GMI. I have two of these. He sent me another one free because I've sold him loads of these. So we're going to mark up the frets where the high spots are on each fret, and we've already, you probably can't see on the camera because I've only the lens will only go to it. We'll remove the nut. And we're going to be levelling all of the frets. The reason we're levelling all of the frets is we have quite a few to do. So we're going to take a fret rocker. It has 4 different edges. These are precision ground, so they are perfectly flat. We have 4 different lengths, so we can check just 3 frets at a time. And if we get a rock, we know the one in the middle is high. And you see, look, I'm showing you the all the different widths. As we move along the neck, we come down and we just do it so we can check 3. This one here, by the way, is astronomically high. That is, I mean, that fret is more or less unseated. I can get my thumbnail under that bit. So we are going to check the frets. And this won't tell us which frets are high and low exactly. It will just tell us what frets need attention. There's one there. Just in the middle. And next to me. I always mark the frets in 3 different areas. We'll call the one nearest you area 1, the middle area 2, and the one nearest me area 3. This is areas 2 and 3. And I'll write these down on a piece of paper in a while. It'll be fret free areas 2 and 3, and I'll know exactly what that means and where the frets are high. Can you hear the rock? So we already have 2 high areas on 2 frets. Three, and this is normal for cheaper guitars. You know, I always say to people, if you're going to buy a cheap guitar, expect it to need a little bit of fret work. So we already have 4 high spots over 5 frets, so we are already warranting a complete fret level. If there's only 4 or 5 along the whole length, I can do it by spot levelling. But once you get more than 5, I'm going to have to do the whole lot. For reasons I've explained many times before. But I will explain again. 2 areas on this one. You notice the guitar rocking just a little bit. I don't have it quite stable underneath the body. I don't have the right size support. I should have actually sourced one before I started doing this, but it's still good enough for what I'm doing right now. I will, however, be supporting this a lot better at this end when I start levelling the frets. So just to give you a rough idea. So when it comes to levelling these frets, I'll be using a levelling beam and going across the whole lot. Just check that one again. I've got a little bit of a scratch in it up fret there, and here. Just noticed. Just check that one. Again. So far, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 frets so far with high spots. The one that's really high, I'm going to knock it back in with a fretting hammer because it's really badly seated. This one's not too clever either. I did count 11 high frets earlier when I was doing it off camera. This one is ludicrous. All the way across, that fret is just unseated, it needs reseating. That is so high, I don't know how that one got past quality control. You can actually see a gap underneath the fret. So this is not going to tell us anything with the one next to it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 high frets with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 high spots or 18 high areas. So 10 frets with 18 high spots over them. I've marked them all in black pen. You may be able to see them, you may not, according to the light. Maybe I can show it a little bit better from another angle. So we are going to level the frets along the whole length using a leveling beam. I'm going to knock these, I'm going to knock them in just a little bit, especially this one. I'm going to probably get some super glue under there. This one is ludicrous. I'll just get a feel gauge and see how much gap we've got under that fret. I'm thinking it's going to be quite high. What have I done? I'm feeling it. I put my tools over here. There you go, just out of the camera's way. I'm going to grab a 0.3 millimeters. Let's see where we are. I might even grab a 0.4. Here's a 0.4. Let's just see. Might not be as high as that. No, it's not as high as 0.4. But it certainly is very high. Let's go with a 0.25. Yes, 0.2 millimeters high this fret. Wow, 0.25 and it goes underneath. Can I just show this? 0.25 and that is under the fret. So we need to knock that one back in. Probably get a little bit of super glue in there as well before we start filing anything. 0.25 higher than it ought to be. I'm going to find something to stabilise the guitar, get it a lot straighter. In fact, I'm not going to have to do that because how I'd work on the guitar for levelling the frets, I'd just drop it on the tabletop there, and now it's a lot more stable when I can level the frets that way. I always do the finger guide. I see I've got one each end, that's perfect. Just give it level, listen to this. Let me get, yeah, look at that, 0.25 high, look, I've got a feeler gauge right under there, you'll see it poking out in a second. There you go. That is ludicrous. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go across again with the fret rocker and check everything again. Just make sure. Wow. Check everyone I've marked. And there you go. So we have high spots on all of these frets. Like I said, I'm going to knock the high one in, try and get it a bit lower. It's not seated right anyway. It may even have to come out to be seated right again. I'm going to support it underneath. I'm going to knock this one back in, get a little bit of super glue in it, and we are going to level the lot. I'll explain or show which tool I'm using to level the frets. Again, GMI. I'm going to take my leveling beam, precision leveled. This beam I'm going to use perfectly flat across this edge and across this edge. I'm going to do the first run with 240 grit paper, second run with 320 grit. We're going to level the frets this way, keeping the radius along the length. I'm going to finish off with 320 grit, which will remove some of the deeper scratches, and once that's done we're going to rebuild the crown. I'll explain more about this a little bit later on. Most important thing now is to get the frets level. So I'm going to drop the pickups in the guitar. I'm going to tape up the body of the guitar, tape up the headstock area, and we're going to level the frets. We're not going to tape up fingerboard yet, we don't need to do that yet. I need the fingerboard untaped because I need to make sure the neck is level all the way through and afterwards. There's no point taping the thing up twice. We tape it up when we do the crowns on the frets. So to reseat this fret, I've already tapped it in a little bit using my fretting hammer. There's a nylon end and a brass end. But I'm going to take, I'm assuming this is a 14-inch radius. In fact, I'm pretty certain it's a 14-inch radius, which it is. I'm going to take a 14-inch radius caul, place it over the fret. I do have a block of wood right underneath the heel of this guitar. This part of the guitar is off the bench. I'm going to take a 14-inch caul, place it over the fret, and I'm just going to gently tap this one home. And that should now be seated correctly. If not correctly, certainly much better than it was, and it is seated better. I've just been talking to the owner, he's saying, was it popped out? Or I said, no, it's just put in wrong. I mean, now it's level. A little bit high on that edge. A little bit high on that edge, but that's okay. But we are seated right now. So again, just take the caul. We're not hammering this like an idiot. We are taking it nice and steady. You don't have to go like a bull in a china shop. It's nice and steady. Just tap it in. Make sure we're correctly seated, which we are now. And the rest of the work can be done on the levelling. So a little bit high there, a little bit high there, and we are seated correctly there. Next one along now is a little bit high. This sometimes does happen, so we're going to take the caul again, do exactly the same. It won't hurt to go and do this along the whole length of the neck. To make sure everything is seated nicely. And that has made a difference. So we are more or less ready to level. I will go and just tap each one just to make sure that I will be supporting the neck in the areas I'm hammering, like so. There you go. And that should be enough. So we're now going to level the whole lot shortly. I'm going to get everything set up, get everything masked off, sink the pickups inside the guitar so we don't hit anything or get any mess or any filings on the pickups or anything. So I'm going to go and get set up. I'll bring you back in, I'll reset the camera and I'll bring you back in shortly. So we're going to crack on and level some frets. Before we do, we're going to go across with a fret rocker again just to check everything, check we've got everything marked up right. And before I go across with the leveling beam, a couple of things I want to do. Tape up the headstock area, tape over the pickups and the body area of the guitar. That's because we're going to be filing things later and we don't want to be dinging the guitar body We're not getting bits in places where we don't want them, i.e. truss rod slots and inside pickups. So with the neck dead straight, or as straight as we can get it, we're going to go across again with the fret rocker, just checking everything to make sure we've got the high ones marked off. And in all the areas they need to be marked. And back to areas 1, 2 and 3, by the way. Area 1, area 2, area 3. 2 being the centre, 1 furthest away, 3 nearest me. If I ever wrote a piece of paper out or wrote a map, I would do it as such. Let me show you. I've already got an old one here from a job on the other bench. For instance, that would have meant fret 3, areas 1 and 2, so that would have been 1 and 2. Fret 5, areas 1 and 3, so that would have been 1 and 3. That kind of scenario. That always gives me a key or a map showing what frets I need to work on. That doesn't correspond to this guitar. I've not done one for this guitar. I don't need to do one for every guitar. It's only if I'm going to go away and come back later on. So I'm just going to check that I have every area marked off. I have used a permanent marker so the pen will not rub off. In the past I used to use whiteboard markers, but it rub off as soon as you go anywhere near it. Notice I'm not just checking the high frets, I'm checking the other, every single fret as I go along the length of the neck. Just so I know I've not missed anything. I'm going to be quite brutal on this levelling. I'll be using a really good file. One I got from Chris Allsop on eBay. He makes review tools. I'm going to show you the file I'm using in a minute. Some of these frets have settled since I've tapped them in, so they just weren't seated correctly. That one's high. Really high on that edge. Just make sure it's not popping out, and it's not popping out. It does happen. So I'm going to show you the file I'm going to use. It's specifically made for the job. It is a fret leveling file made by Chris Allsop. You'll find him on eBay. Precision ground flat piece of metal, diamond file. I do believe this is the finer one, the 300 grit. Fantastic for leveling frets, and it removes a lot of material, and it's a very hard wearing file. Then it's just a matter of going over the high spot areas. Once you've got removed material from a high spot, the file gets progressively easier to move. The easier it gets, the more you know you've levelled that fret with the high spots. You don't need to press too hard, light grip, and you'll see when you're removing material. Stay true to the radius, follow it round, let the file do the work. It'll let you know when it's done filing. Notice, by the way, I am following the radius, so I'm keeping the file straight. I'm not following the line of the neck, because that way you'd make it conical. I'm actually following the radius, so I'm staying true to the radius by staying slightly overlapping on these edges. And you see the material being removed. It won't hurt every now and again to wipe the file. And let the file do the work. Fret leveling is not a difficult job. You will work the file a little bit more down this end because you're doing the frets are a lot closer together, so you're doing a lot more work. thing about working on this bench is I have the LED spotlights above, and I can see how much material I've moved from each fret with the light shining on there. Moved very little from the frets that don't need it, but quite a bit from those that do. How do we know that we've not removed too much? Well, we do and we don't. Experience tells us that. You always know when you're pretty close, but what we're going to do is we're going to check the frets again. It doesn't take a lot to remove the black areas. And we're just going to go across with fret rocker. This will be really quick because we'll know if we've got any high ones. I think we'll find that these frets are more or less level now. Or if not perfectly level, at least 95% there. So far so good. And what we're going to do is, because we removed the main material we needed to remove with the file, it means we've got to remove a lot less material with the levelling beam. If we're using just a levelling beam, the sandpaper will wear away really quickly. We'll just keep changing it. The fact that we get them close with a file before we use a levelling beam means the levelling beam will last us a lot more fret levels. I mean, that I've probably done 4 or 5 on that levelling beam so far, and the sandpaper's still good. We are pretty good. I'm expecting to have to do a little bit more work down this end, but if I don't need to, even better. Now that's a high one there. And there, kind of expected that because that was a real problem fret. So 4th one from the end, or fret 20 here and here on the outside edges. Again, we'll just work that area a little bit more. I see now why I've lowered the pickups and taped them up. Again, the file will tell you when you're removing enough material because it will become a lot easier to move. Still a little bit high on that side, fine on this side. And there you go, and we are fine. So that is the frets. I'm saying level, more or less level. What we're going to do now is we're going to do the lot using the levelling beam. And how we make sure we have a consistent level across the whole length of the neck is we mark all of the frets. Permanent marker. And we're looking to remove this pen from all the frets in a few strokes. Not too many strokes. You'll see exactly what I mean when I do it. This is something that should be done in the factory. I don't think it is. Well, it can't be. I think we just press them in and oof them out. This certainly is something that should be checked. At the end of the day, you should not be going and spending another 115 quid getting me to level these frets. With nut you could have got away with. You know, maybe you just need to cut it a little bit, but having a fret level is not something you should need on a brand new guitar. If you hear a big hissing, that's our, so there's a factory just across the road from here. It's factory noise, there's nothing I can do about it. Anyway. Levelling beam out of the box, as mentioned before, by GMI. I've seen the guy make these tools, I've seen the way he mills everything. This is fantastic, I trust his tools. Anyway, Really easy. Leveling beam, we're just going to follow a radius from this edge, so we're following that radius. I'm going to stand up for this. Shouldn't need too many strokes by rights, and all being well, we'll remove all of the pen in just a few strokes. That should be that half done. Having a good inspect, and that is all of the pen removed bar this little area here. It means we've got one high fret down here somewhere. Just gonna have a quick check. This is the one right here. That fret is just a little bit high because we've got a little bit of black there, a little bit of black there. Now it doesn't matter if I create a little bit of fall away here, so I'm just going to concentrate on this area. Really pressing really lightly. And that is it. All of the pen is removed. It means we've got all of the frets level. To make sure, we're going to go again with the other side. So that's a 240 grit done. We're going to go over with 320 grit now. So we're going to do two things. We're going to make sure we are level. It's also going to make these scratches a little bit thinner, because the scratches will be quite deep using the 240 grit. The 320 grit will just bring some of those deeper scratches out, make it easier to polish them later. So same thing again, just mark up the frets. Should just take a few strokes now. You could, if you wanted to, take a radius beam, sure you know what they are, and slide up just one slide once this is done, just to make sure that the radius has been kept, or maintain the radius. Anyway, we're going to go with the 320 grit, a few strokes, 3 there, 1, 2, 3, and there you go, 3 strokes each side. So from there, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All of the pen is removed. We have the frets level along the whole length of the guitar neck, and we are now ready to crown these and get them ready for, well, basically get the guitar ready for restringing. Frets are level along the whole length. We need to start building up that crown now. So what we've done is we've flattened the frets going that way, and we need to rebuild that crown going that way. It means we've got a smaller area that touches the string, which means we're not going to get any buzz. So really pleased with that. A couple of things I need to do before we start crowning them. I need to tape up the fingerboard, make sure it's dead straight, which I know it is anyway, but make sure it's dead straight. Once it is, we're going to tape everything bar the frets. I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you in detail how we recrown these frets. With the fingerboard all taped up, well, sorry, the neck all taped up, well yeah, the fingerboard, just the frets exposed. I've penned over in permanent marker 5 of the frets, and we are going to recrown, basically build that curve going this way. I'm looking at the cross section here, so where it's flat on top now, we're going to rebuild that crown there. And I'm going to use 2 specific files to do so. One, a gift from a real cool guy I met a few years ago, named Nigel Roberts. You may know him as Leicestershire Luthier, now retired. He's taken over by his protege and his apprentice, Danny Lint, good friend of mine. Me and Danny meet up every now and again, and our wives, we both have Canadian wives, so we have that in common, and we have the guitar industry in common, so we meet up now and again, swap notes, go for meals, and etc, etc, and we're good friends. So how we're going to rebuild these crowns? Well, my first file I'm going to use is a Z file by Stumac. Great piece of kit. On the far side, as you look at it, a long cut, on the near side a short cut. Flip it 80 degrees, rolls reversed. On the far side a short cut, on the near side closest to you a long cut. It's a diamond file. I believe it is 300 grit, but don't quote me on that. And what this will do is It'll cut long and short one side, flip it over, then short and long on the opposite side, and it'll rebuild that crown. It won't be perfectly round, but it'll just leave. One thing this file will not do, it will not hit the top of the fret. So you can only leave a thin black line down the centre. And once that's done, I'm going to go across with my gift from Nigel Roberts, which is a profiling file, which has got the perfect arc for the top of the frets. I could just use this, but this makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to start on the third one. Only need a few strokes. A diamond file cuts really well. Flip it over 180 degrees. I hope you can see nice thin black line down the centre. If it's a little bit too thick, we'll wipe the file and we'll go again. Just a couple more strokes, and that is beautiful. Lovely thin line down the centre. Take this file over the edge, over the fret, over the edge, and that will bring any unevenness out of there. It'll make a beautiful crown shape, and that's it. We will clean the file, and we'll move on to the next one. Because we've left that black line down the centre, we know we've not removed any height. We know that the frets are level and they are all the same height, so we're not going to alter anything. We're going to maintain the height across the tops of all the frets. It means they're level along the whole length of the neck. And that is 2 done. It really is that simple. One more for good measure. Doesn't take long at all. That line's a little bit thicker on that one, so we're going to go again. Happy with that. Always cleaning the file. And that is it. And to prove we've not lost any height on any of the frets, we're just going to check the height, check there's no rock, and there's no rock, and there's no rock, and there's no rock. And that really is that simple. Nice thin black line down the centre of each fret, between 0.3 and 0.4 millimetres wide, I would say. Leaves us with a beautiful crown across the top of the frets. I'm going to crack on. Got 21 more to do. Once that's done, we're going to be ready. We're going to come back and we're going to get these frets all polished up. Polishing frets, there could not be a simpler job. 6 different grits of sandpaper, going 600 grit through to 2000. So you've got 600, 800, 1000, 1200, 1500, 2000. Start with the coarse, finish with the fine. And what we're doing is we're removing the scratches that are this way and bringing the frets to a nice polish. I say 6 grits, I actually meant 7 grits, because I do first start with some 400 grit, which is quite coarse. But the good thing about this is where your file marks are, this will remove those file marks completely in just a few rubs, like so. And it makes the polishing process much easier. Those file marks have gone off now, so that flat bit we saw from the file is no longer there. And this is going to take me a while to do this. So we do have 24 frets times 7, well actually times 8, because I will finish off with the finest grade steel wool to bring them to a beautiful shine at the end. So we're going 8 times 24, which I think you'll find is 192. So in effect, I'm polishing 192 frets. That is going to take me quite a while. So I'm going to crack on and get that done. Once it is done, I will come back and I'll show you the state of the frets as we peel off the tape, and you'll see that they will be absolutely beautiful. Frets are now finished. I've just finished polishing, been through with 7 grits of sandpaper, 400 grit through to 2000 grit, finished off with the finest or super fine steel wool, or extra fine. I think the grade on this is 0000, in fact I don't think I know. And just about to remove the tape. Now you'll see why I put tape down the side, because it enables us to be able to get everything off more quickly. If you can pull that strip there, I'll be doing each one between each fret individually, and that will take quite a bit longer. So we're just going to pull it up. You see exactly where this is going. a long-winded job, polishing frets. It does take a while. It's not my favourite job, but it's very rewarding, especially when you get to this part where you just remove the tape and you get to see the frets against the fingerboard. Oh, there you go. This is what I mean about being able to remove the tape a lot of it in one go. And these frets look magnificent. It'll look even better once I've treated the fingerboard with some mineral oil. These frets will really pop and they'll look fantastic. They are now glass-like and smooth. Bear with me a second while I get a start on this tape. Here you go. I'm going to leave the blue tape on the body. You won't see from where you are, but there is a little bit of wire wool dust attracted to the pickup. We'll get rid of that. That's why we'll cover everything up. We'll keep it covered when we, hang on, I don't need to. I'm thinking I'll keep it covered anyway for when I oil the fingerboard, because I don't want to get oil all over the body anyway. But they are done. So next part of the job will be to cut a new nut from a bone blank. I'm not going to do it tonight. It is getting on. It's 11:16 p.m. on a Friday night. We've just gone into Tier 3 lockdown in Nottingham in England. So what else is there to do on a Friday night? There's no pubs open. Blah 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 blah. So I've been working all evening. But next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a knot. Like I say, I'm not going to do it tonight. It's getting a bit late now. But it will be first job tomorrow. I'll go knot blank. In fact, I've got to cut two because I've got two of these guitars to cut a knot for. But that's it. The frets look fantastic. I'm going to treat the fingerboard overnight. We'll get some mineral oil on there, let that soak in. We'll wipe it off before I go to bed. And we'll come back in the morning and we'll cut a knot. Okay guys, I'm wearing a mask because I've been cutting bone, and we all know that bone stinks when you cut it. I've been cutting it with a Dremel because bone's quite difficult to cut. So what I do is I take a blank like so, draw around my old nut and cut using my Dremel and get it pretty close to where I need to be, and I'll finish the rest off with files in a vise. So I'll get this in a vise, I'll file this down to rough shape, and we'll look at getting it fitted to the guitar. Now I already know it's a little bit wider than it needs to be, only a tiny bit. So I just need to shave some off this side. So we're going to basically attack this with a couple of files, then some sandpaper, different grits of sandpaper, and we're going to get this to rough shape. Once it's rough shaped, we'll fit it to the guitar, check for fit, and then we'll start cutting the grooves. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this really close to where I need it to be. I'm going to tidy up these edges, get them close to where I need them to be, and then we're going to fit it to the guitar, and I'm going to bring the camera in to the neck end or the nut end of the guitar, and I'm going to show you how we fit and file a knot for a perfect fit. I've rough shaped the nut. I've cut from a blank. These are the blanks I get. I do an outline of the old nut on a blank, cut it with a Dremel, file it with a couple of files, get it close to where I want it to be, sand it and try a dry fit. A dry fit is looking really good. We've got the perfect width, it's seated perfectly well, and I'm ready to glue this in. And that is looking fine, just making sure it's sat perfectly straight, and it is. And I think I can glue it over. There seems to be a little gap at the edge of this rosewood, but I think it's because it's not cut at exactly 90 degrees. I'm not going to alter the shape of the bottom of the knot. I'm just going to glue it in as it is. Just making sure it's sat right. There's a little bit of a gap there. I'm just going to go in with a file. Just make sure the base is level. There's something a little bit more substantial than that. It could just be some old glue sat on the nut shelf, and there probably is. If it is a problem, and there does seem to be a little bit of a gap underneath, I will drop some bone dust in there sure we'll be fine. Yeah, because it is not seating perfectly level. I will drop some bone dust in there and tidy that up. I'm going to glue that in as is. Once it's on, we'll get it marked up, ready for cutting the slots. We'll take it over to the other bench. We'll get the neck in a vise and we'll cut these slots. I didn't show cutting the nut slots, and I meant to, but how we do that is to work out where we need to cut in relation to each string. We don't cut the same distance apart from each one because that just wouldn't work. We do centre of string to centre of string. We need more of a gap between these two than these because the strings are wider. So what we do is we use what we call a string spacing rule. You'll see it on there. And what happens is you line up your 6 strings, the outside and the outside of each, and it shows you exactly where you need to put each string. And like this one, for instance, I use the 2 blue lines, one there, which is roughly 36mm, and it spaces everything for you, the exact amount you need to have the strings apart. So that's all done. Now, one thing I don't have done is I don't have the heights done properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to that part of the process. And I've got the guitar pretty much set up normal with the amount of action I need at the 12th fret. I'm just going to check that. Probably a little bit more than I need, but I'm not worried about it being more because I've got cutting nut slots yet. Okay, we're all a little bit higher, but that's okay. I'm going to be cutting the nut slots, and I'm going to be cutting them above the first string. Now these are really, really high. So we've got a lot of shaping to do on the nut. So once I've cut these slots to the depth I need them, I'm actually going to remove the strings again. And I'm going to reshape the top of the nut. The nut is glued in, it's to the edges of the guitar, but I'll show you how I cut the slots. So you've seen how I do it before. And I would be taking my nut slotting files if I could find them. There you go. On this bench over here. So bear with me a second, I'll just grab the 5 I need, or the 6 I need should I say. 10, 13, 10, 13, 16, 28, 36, 46 for a 10, 46 set, and that's them. The strings we're going to be using are going to be 1046, so we just take the right nut slotting files we need. These will cut a perfect U shape. I want the 46 first, which is not that one. I should have prepped these before. There you go. 0.046, that's the bass E string. Take a cloth, always clean the files, and we're miles above where we need to be there. A feeler gauge. So the slot depth, we're looking at a gap from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string, and this side we're going to be looking at about 0.3mm, that side about 0.2mm. So I'm going to have a look, see where we are. Now I'm thinking that nut's probably really, really high. I'll take a 0.3 and we're a mile high. I've cut this nut way too high. So we are going to go in. We're going to slightly angle toward the machine head. Don't go mental, even though if you think you're removing a lot of material, don't go mental, just keep going back and checking. As I say, I've just angled this slightly toward the machine head to create a little angle going down on the nut there. And we're still way high. Just keep measuring, keep checking. Clean the file. Well, still way high. So you see how it works. I'm going to do this for all 6 strings. I'm only going to show you this one string. But you get the idea. Got to clean the file. So always clean the file because you'll always get a better cut once it's clean. Just starting to buzz, so we are getting very close to where we need to be. Very, very tight slot. Oh, there you go, that's better. I think that one's going to be just about where we need it to be, and that's looking fine. Just starting to buzz, that's pretty good. Probably got more on the top of the nut than I want, so what I'm going to do is, once I've cut these slots, I'm probably going to shave some off the top of the nut again. Just so we've got these strings half in, half out, these three. Rest of them, it doesn't matter if they go in the slots. I'm going to do exactly the same for the other 5 strings. We're going to cut the slots until we're down to about 0.2mm at this end, 0.3 at this. So we're just buzzing, then we're going to reshape the top of the nut. Once that's done, we can stretch the strings in, get the guitar set up, and it will be good to go. And here we are, fret friends, and this guitar is all done. Freshly cut bone knot on there, looking very, very nice. So let's recap what this guitar came in for. Came in for a fret level and a new knot. We have a brand new bone knot on there. There's a little bit of pink in the blood in the bone there. I'd imagine that's from blood in the bone. I didn't notice that until I was recarving it and getting it to fit right. But we're going to leave that in there. Adds a little bit of mojo. It's well fitted. A lovely, like I say, lovely bone knot. The frets themselves are all level, highly polished, look fantastic. One thing I have not done yet is I have not screwed in the pick guard. So we're just need to wipe in there. Bear with me a second, I'll do this on camera right now. Saying that, you can't see it. Hopefully we'll get a piece of, there you go, nice and clean under there. So yeah, a lovely guitar, Harley Benton double cut, custom or DC custom. Is it DC custom? Let's have a look. Underneath, see what it says on the back of the headstock. Very surprising guitar. Sometimes with these you're thinking, yeah, they've cut corners somewhere. We know they've cut corners somewhere, and they always seem to cut corners on the nut, which again is a problem in itself. I normally charge £65 for a bone knot cut from a blank and fitted. I'm actually charging a little bit less on this one because he's had 2 guitars bought in, so I'm knocking him a tenner off per knot. So he's had a complete fret level, a new nut carved from bone, fitted. Yes, it's a DC custom line, Harley Benton DC custom line, Grover tuners, Roswell pickups, which my experience with Roswell pickups has not been very good, but these are actually surprisingly really, really very nice. I've had it plugged in, it sounds fantastic. So what a lovely guitar. Like I say, could be seen as a false economy, but if you know what you're getting, know you're probably going to need some fretwork and a new knot. You know, you can always go with a bit cheaper knot. You can go with a pre-cut one, which I charge a little bit less for. Go with a Graphtec or something. But if you know when you're buying it, you're going to need to replace the knot and I'll probably have some frets worked on. That's fair enough. Still a very, very nice guitar. To get one from a factory with level frets is going to be very rare in this. I've had 2 of these guitars off this guy and they both need fretwork. That's just the way it is. You decide if it's false economy or not. I've got my own thoughts on that, but look at it. It's a beautiful looking SG guitar. Now with completely level frets, with a new bone knot on there. Pickups are really good, sounds fantastic, plays fantastic, looks fantastic. What more could you want? So bear in mind, it's probably going to need work when you buy it. Price wise, I think these guitars, I don't know how much they are, maybe £160, £180. If you have an extensive work on their fret level and a new knot and everything, be looking at paying, you know, a little bit more on top, well, quite a bit more on top of that. It's going to cost you, all in all, you're looking at 350 quid tops. Well, not even that, say 330 quid. Where can you get a guitar looking this good and being this great spec for £330? So that one is done. I'm going to move on to the next one. Lovely guitar. and I'm sure the owner is looking forward to picking it up. So until the next time, just before I go, remind you of my website, facebook.com/ng17. That's facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. I'm Victor, I am your friend. Until the next one, God bless you, be good to each other. I'll see you in the next one.